Excuse me. Hey, I got a crazy request of you.
Sure.
I'm working on a video project where I talk to random people on the street, and I run a question by them. I'll tell you the question, and then I want to record their response, so I have a video camera here. Okay?
All right.
So,
What will be the question, though?
okay, here's the question. What do you think happens after this life, and how did you get to your belief?
Oh, wow.
It's a good
Dig
question.
that. That's a heavy. I love it. Yeah.
Can I set it up? And it's just like a monopod. I'll set it up, and it would be like right here, and we would talk.
Sure.
Okay, very good. Appreciate your willingness.
No worries.
A lot of people are actually surprisingly willing.
Yeah.
I've found.
Well, that's good because I would think a lot of people would be like, nah, I'm good. You know, whatever you said, I ain't buying. I got to go. Bye.
Yeah, some people don't like to be filmed, but I think a lot of people, it's like if they're in a hurry, they think, oh, this might take a long time. So, but.
And I am in a hurry, but no,
Yeah.
this is good. No, I'm
I
just
mean,
going to go
it's
to Johnny
kinda-
O. Yeah.
Okay,
That's good.
It's one of those questions that can go. Now I got to set this kind of close so because it picks up our sound too. So.
Sure.
All right. So first of all, what's your name?
I am Hampton. I work right down here at Co-Prosperity Sphere. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Jeff.
Jeff, nice
Hampton,
to meet you.
then?
Yeah, Hampton. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll repeat the question.
Sure.
What do you think happens after this life, and how did you get to your present belief? I guess.
I believe that after this life, we are reincarnated and move on to another life. The physical part of us is gone, of course, but there is a spiritual or soul part that I think transfers into another life, be it one of another human being or maybe one of animal of some other being. I believe that we do go to another life form after this one as a human. I came to my belief because I have been studying different religions, and I kind of like the idea that we do move on to another life because not only are we a body, we're also a spirit or a soul. And I don't think that that goes away. I've often believed in the song by Leon Word that said the spirit never dies. And I kind of believe in that. Of course, the physical, when you die, has to go into the grave or be cremated or some kind of way because it's physical. But researching other religions, and I kind of believe that you do have a soul that does transform and goes to another part of another life. Like I said, be it that of a grasshopper, that of, some kind of animal.
So kind of like Hinduism, right?
Kind of Hinduism, yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
So when you say you're researching, what does that look like for you? Like researching the other religions? Is it like just reading about them, or going to their meetings? I don't know.
Kind of amalgamation of all that. It's definitely talking to different people in Hindu temples and things as such. Also speaking with Baptist pastors and speaking with people from the Catholic religion and things as well. So it kind of combines all of that. And as well, too, reading so that I can understand what they are talking about on my own terms, meaning that somebody can tell you something and you can say, okay, that's true, or maybe I really don't believe that.
Right.
However, if you read it for yourself, you'll be able to interpret it the way you would like to, or you'll get a better grasp of it as opposed to saying, okay, I'm telling you it's this and that is what it is. I may not really want to go with that. Let me research it and see what it's all about first.
Yeah.
And so I kind of mix it all together. I speak with people, I read upon it, and then I come to my own conclusions, and that's what the conclusion that I've come to.
Cool. Is that like a recent search in your life, or like last few years? What are we talking about here?
I'm thinking we're talking about maybe the past probably 20 years. As I was raised to believe a certain way in a certain thing. After some things happened in my life, I decided to do a little research on my own, which is what I did. Did a little research on my own, and I started talking to friends who were, like I said, Buddhists, Hindus, who were of different faiths. And I just
may
came
I ask
to
what you grew up in? Like,
I grew up non-denominational, but of course I was probably pushed and geared towards COIGC, which is Church of God in Christ.
Sure. Which is considered Pentecostal, I'm pretty sure.
Correct.
Like there's a lot, were they speaking in tongues, things like that?
Things like
in your
that,
church?
right? Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. And after that, that was a good way to start. It gave me a good basis for religion.
Yeah.
But I often wondered, is there all there is? Because I've heard about being Catholic, because I had friends who were Catholic. Let me see what that's about. I had friends who were also of different faiths, and I want to see, okay, well, what is to their religions or their faiths? Because I was often told that this is, just the only one, and you should never, consider another. But I had good friends who were Jehovah's Witnesses.
Okay.
Let me see what that's about.
Yeah.
Let me see why they believe in that. Let me see why my other friend believes in, this faith. So it always made me want to research and find out about different faiths as well as the one that I was brought up in,
Yeah.
COGIC.
Now, growing up with that background, were there times when you were very sure about your beliefs? As far as like you went along with what the church believed, or would you say you've had supernatural experiences? That sort of thing.
Oh wow, that's
I mean,
deep.
especially with the the Church of God in Christ. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine, did you speak in tongues? Were there times?
Yeah, I didn't catch the Spirit, I guess, or the Holy Ghost. I think I probably
That's
have.
kind of the big emphasis. Right?
Exactly right. I probably have maybe come close to it, but I guess once again, I don't know. Maybe I wasn't. The Spirit didn't follow me to go that way. But I have still just had a deep respect for the people who have experienced that.
Okay, so you're not like standing back and like being critical of them or whatever.
Correct. Yeah, I couldn't, because I don't know what they were feeling at that time. It could have been a possibility that they were, hit with the Spirit. They were called to speak in tongues and things like that. So I can't really say that, oh yeah, that's legitimate, or that's just the act they're
Right.
putting on. It's not for me to say, because I'm not experiencing that at that time.
Right.
It's only if I experience that, then I'm able to speak upon it. So I respect what they went through and what they're going through. And when the Spirit hits you, I guess you just have to go with it. But I really wasn't convinced enough to say that this is the end-all, be-all, especially when I had friends of different faiths who were very devout in their faith. So it made me think maybe there's something to.
Was that more like when you left home kind of thing, college, like getting out in the world and just meeting people of other faiths? Because I imagine growing up, it was mostly like the people around church. If I know your experience at the Kojic church, it was like, this is where you live.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Like you eat lunch there, and
Yep,
like you're there all day Sunday, and then during the week, and
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
To your point, yeah, with Kojic,
it's like
yeah,
your life revolves around it. Right?
It really does. Sunday mornings, for example, you're
Yeah.
there early in the morning, so you will have breakfast, because very early in the morning, you will go to the Bible study, you will go to the first service, and of course you have folks there and other people who are coming in, so you might be there in the afternoon as well too, and then later into the evening, but you will be served, okay, like you said, a little meal
Yeah.
or whatever to sustain you,
Yeah.
because you're in church for anywhere
It's an all-day
from
event.
all-day event, anywhere
Yeah.
from 8 to 12 hours. So it's like, oh my goodness, it's like, so you're there all the time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as you said, too, you're also, in addition to being there that one day Sunday, you're there for maybe choir practice later on during the week, Bible study a little bit later on during the week, and things like that. So you're in there Sunday, probably Tuesday, probably a Thursday, and things like that. So you're there in church, not just the one day, of course, for hours, but you're maybe there 3 or 4 times out of a 7-day week.
Yeah.
Because that's the way the religion is geared towards. You got to be there to be a part of everything that the church is involved in. But I myself appreciated that life, and it gave me structure, which I think is essentially what religion is. It's structure. It's trying to give you some kind of structure and some kind of answers to the questions, who am I? Why am I here? What is life all about? As you said before, what happens after this life? Where do I go?
Yeah.
Do I go to heaven, as they say, or do I go to hell? And I don't know if I want to deal in those extremes as much as I want to say that I think that the physical part goes away. But there is a spirit or a soul. Where does that go? Because that never dies. That lives on and on. Where does that go? Does it go to heaven? Does it descend to hell? Does it go and transfer into another life?
Now, when you say it, do you picture your soul as like this is you, like your consciousness, like you take with maybe your experiences and you'll be able to think like you do now, or are you thinking just like an energy field?
I can't think like that, like an energy field, like an entity, like
this is just like generally positive or generally negative or something like that,
or just is.
Yeah.
It just is, because to say that I go with thinking, that incorporates the thought that you go when you to another life, to your other life. Your physical is gone, but your spirit or soul goes away, but you're in a conscious state. But I think that's more for the mental or the mind. So I think that's part of the body. So when that goes,
so your conception of the soul is a little bit different than just like a spirit that actually thinks. And so let me ask you this: you believe in God? I take it.
Yes.
Your conception of God is God personal, like someone we can have a relationship with, or is it more, I guess, impersonal, like a power source or something like that? You know what I mean? Like,
that's a great question.
Yeah.
Ooh. I would have to say no. That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I would have to say that it's kind of both. Because it is a very personal
Definitely
relationship.
a spiritual being.
Yes.
But
but also very, I am God, and but I came to believe that we are part of Him and He is part of us, which is, like I said, the spirit, the soul. He never dies. He keeps on living. He keeps on. This is what He's given us, and this is, I think, the energy that transcends not just the physical form, but it goes out into not only the world but also into the universe. It goes out because God created all this.
I can kind of hear the Eastern religion roots of that, because
really,
because it's called pantheism, which means God is part of creation. Like God is in everything.
Correct.
And so everything is like unified because God is in everything, and so therefore God is in us and we're in God. It's almost like we are gods in our own way.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Some parts of you exist in the universe.
Yeah.
Certain molecules, certain things in your body can be found in the universe.
Yeah.
And this is not just on Earth. No, this is just like out in space. If
Yeah.
we take up all of who you are and what you are, we can find parts of you in space.
Yeah.
It's like, how can I be of this in space? Because it's all connected.
And it's very it's actually like very much in opposition to the Christian point of view, which would say there's the creator and the creation, and so the creator has always existed. In the beginning, God created. In other words, God always existed, and then everything else that exists is creation, like had a limited back, like past, and but yet He's put eternity in our hearts, so we have this eternity going forward, but we're not part of God. We are made in His image.
Correct.
Which the way I look at that is, it's like God is a personality and we can relate to Him. And also, like, we're an image of God in the same way that, like, an image in the mirror is not 3D, doesn't make noise, doesn't make smell. Like there's parts of us that reflect God, but there's a lot of us that doesn't. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yes.
So we're made in the image of God, and so as I read the Bible, it's like God made us that way so that we could be in relationship with Him, which, as I read it, that was lost in the Garden of Eden. The fall.
With the fall of man and Adam.
We're separate from God by our sin. And I do know by experience that, man, the minute I sin, it's like the last thing I want is to be with God, because He just looks right through me and He knows everything,
Exactly.
And so our sin continues to this day to separate us from God and from that relationship with Him.
But he always gives you a chance to come back, because He knows that we are human, so we make mistakes. I think it says in the Word that for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. But that doesn't mean that we are just damned forever and we can never repair our relationship with Him. He always gives us a chance to come back to Him, because He knows from the beginning He made us, yes, in His image, but He also knows too that we are flesh and that we make mistakes.
Yeah.
Of course, God is, omnipotent, all being. He's everywhere, so He is not of flesh, but He knows that in making us flesh, that we will have the problems of the place that we inhabit, this place called Earth, and that we will make mistakes and things like that. So yes, while we're not to sin, and He gives us very thorough instructions on what to do, what not to do, He knows that we will make mistakes. But it doesn't mean that we're damned to hell. He gives us a way to connect with Him.
Yeah.
And that's through prayer, and then later through His Son, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So what, it really, I mean, to be honest, sounds like you've rejected that, that whole idea that we could come back to a right relationship with God the Christian way,
I haven't rejected it. I just
trying to be open to other viewpoints or something like that.
Just other viewpoints, right?
Yeah.
Because this is essentially what God did. He also gave us the power of choice. Once again, going back to Genesis, Adam, the snake, you shall eat. Oh, He told us before the serpent arrived. You can partake of anything in the garden, but you can't partake of.
One rule. That's one simple rule.
That's
and
it.
All
That's
these
it.
other trees you can go eat from.
Anything, right? But just this one thing you cannot.
And then,
for you shall surely die. So, in other words, in that instance, I hate to break you off, but in that instance, I think He was saying that although I'm your father, you're my child, I created you. You are under my dominion, and I am your father and watching over you. I will still give you the power of choice, the freedom in mind to think on your own, because in His grand design, He knew we couldn't be, I guess you would consider that a robot, which is, okay, I made you, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to...
Right.
That's not God's plan.
Right.
He wanted us to, of course, serve Him and do His will, but He also gave us the will to and freedom to think on our own, the brain. That's why He gave us that choice. You can have any piece of fruit in this garden, but from this tree of knowledge of good and evil, you shouldn't, because you shall surely die.
And then, the whole thing about, like, as soon as they ate from it, their minds were open. They knew good from evil. It's like scales fell from their eyes. They knew good from evil. So we all have a conscience. And so every day it's like we're given choices, almost like, do you want to eat from this tree?
Exactly.
And every day we have moral choices. So I would look at them more as like moral, really sins, which is not a popular word.
Exactly.
Rather than just like mistakes, like I'm like making a math error or something.
Right.
It's like I'm making moral choices to basically go my own way rather than God's way. So we're kind of in rebellion every time we're doing that.
Exactly.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's like, how can I have a right relationship with God if I'm in rebellion with Him?
Mm-hmm.
And then I also, like, it's not just our, like we're given a conscience, but then we're also given things like the Ten Commandments,
Correct.
And like the second commandment says, don't make and serve false images, right?
Idols.
So then, or false idols, which back then was like stone statues, whatever. Now it's more like images of God in our mind that we've kind of pieced together. And so I don't know if you could tell I'm coming from a Christian perspective.
Oh, yeah, I can. What
Pretty
gave
obvious.
it away?
Right.
Yeah.
But so to be honest, I would be suspicious of like kind of picking and choosing from other religions because of that idea of putting together our own God that we're more comfortable with, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, it does.
It's basically from the Christian perspective, it would be idol worship. Like I've created a statue in my mind of God that I like, that accepts whatever and doesn't make demands of me or, I do think though that even with reincarnation, there's still that element of judgment, like what are you going to come back as?
Exactly, right.
So I don't know if any religion can really like run, like get away from the idea of us being judged.
Right. Yeah.
Unless I guess we say that we are God and we're our own gods, and we're beyond judgment, or something. I don't know.
Yeah, which once again that is spoken about in the Bible too. While we're created from that source, and he says that we are of him, we are not him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that has to be put in perspective too.
Yeah.
We have the powers and things like that he has bestowed upon us in this form, but we have to remember that we are not him, and which is definitely true. We are in his image, but I can't make a star.
Right. Yeah.
I can't,
I can't even make myself. Like I didn't bring myself into this world.
Correct. So
and I don't really have control over where I'll go afterwards.
Exactly. Right. So you
He's
can't.
the judge.
Yeah, and the jury, exactly. So I think that has to be put in perspective too. Like you said earlier, when we ate from the tree, when Adam ate from that tree, he realized, oh, I am naked, and things like that. He went scurrying.
To me, it's like I'm exposed. God sees right through me, and they like go and physically hide. But
why? Because God in his infinite wisdom knew even in 2018 beyond that nakedness would be thought of in a very demeaning light.
We're exposed and
exactly, but it's not, because it's his human form that he created
and then
for
his
us.
first act of grace is to make clothes for Adam and Eve.
Correct. Correct. That was his
at
first.
the expense of animals having to die for it.
Exactly right. But had we just done what he asked us to do, be obedient, which is what it is. It's just being obedient, having laws, rules. You need that in life, and God knew this infinitely years before we even came up with the term of rules or things like. He knew that we needed the structure.
And I don't know if, like, a lot of people miss this. I don't know if you if you went to a lot of Bible studies, you probably heard it growing up, but the focus of the Bible is not on us being served by God. There's constant references to God receiving the glory he deserves.
Correct.
And so for God to be treated as God, we need to follow his rules.
Pretty much.
And we live for him and for his glory,
Correct.
And so a lot of people miss that because they start to think God's like some Santa Claus or something.
Right, exactly. It's like not the dude that's going to be
us.
coming down your chimney, and which is another thing too. Going back to the commandments, worshiping false idols. Yeah, we totally lost what they call the reason for the season of Christmas.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking and talking about his son, Jesus, we're more concerned with Kris Kringle, Santa Claus, coming down the chimney with a bag.
Am I going to get what I want?
Exactly. What if I don't even have a chimney in my house?
Right.
Which I don't.
Right.
So we're once again worshiping false idols.
Yeah.
That's not what Christmas is about. It's about the birth of Jesus, and that's what it's about. And so once again, God is trying to bring us closer to him and away from that. And he knows that we have so many things that we can look at and see to worship. Once again, like I said, false idols, these little, wooden statues, or even in today, with social media being very, very popular. I want to be rich and famous, like this person on Instagram or this person on Facebook.
Yeah.
Worshiping false idols. We should be really looking towards something that's been there all along, which is God.
Yeah.
Because Puff Daddy, as much as I love him, didn't give me life. Neither did these other guys that I see on girls on Facebook. God, we need to get back to that.
Yeah.
And reading the Word.
I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it sounds like you're being reminded of a lot of things that you learned when you were young,
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a cool thing.
And I
want to encourage you to go back and re-examine the Bible, re-examine your childhood faith, just because when you heard it then, your mind was at a certain maturity level and level of comprehension and level of understanding. And so a lot of times I find that a lot of people, like, they have these memories of what they read in the Bible when they were young, and then when they turn back to it, if they do when they're older, it's like, I don't remember this, and I looked at it a totally different way, For example, I'll give you an example. Someone, one of the reasons I have these conversations is, as a Christian, I think it's important to talk about our faith outside of church walls, It
is.
And one of the reasons I believe that is because someone challenged me that Jesus talked more about hell than he did about heaven. And I thought, that's not, and I've been reading the Bible like regularly since I was about 17.
For some time now,
so it's
some
like,
years, yeah.
Okay, what do I have, selective memory? That can't be true. That's not the Jesus I know, right?
No.
So I actually went back to the Gospels, read them through, pen in hand, writing down every reference to the future and eternity and judgment and reward and all that sort of thing. So not just like Googling hell, or searching for particular keywords, but what is the
Hades,
gist? What is the gist of the passage? And so reading through all four Gospels and T-chart, heaven, hell, reward, punishment, things like that. And by far, he's talking about hell and warning people against it than he did about heaven, which to me tells me this is something to take seriously and something to warn people about, and not just assume that everyone's going to heaven, and really take it seriously. Avoiding it doesn't make it go away,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And,
yeah, or either
so,
go into hell, either the other extreme too. I think what people do is misunderstand what the Bible is. It is it's essentially a book of instruction. They even give an acronym for the Bible: basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Yeah.
And that's basically what it is. The Bible is a basic book of instruction, and in the grand design, God, being who he is, knew that if he wrote it one way, it'll be a snore and a snooze fest. He had to put these stories or these parables in there to give instruction, because if not, you turn away from it. But it definitely correlates to what is going on in our lives today, and noticing and realizing the arc of life and his infinite wisdom. God just wanted to give us instruction on how to live that life.
Yeah.
So he gives you stories or parables.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned parables, because parables is, I actually, once in a while I'll fill in for our pastor at my church. So I'm actually a high school teacher, but that's not my job, but once in a while I'll fill in. So one time I was preaching about a parable, and so I thought, I'm going to integrate it into these conversations I have with people on the street. So I'd go in the coffee shop or wherever, and I had the parable, not a Bible in hand, but just the parable.
Yeah.
So that people don't think I'm going to read through the Bible, but just the parable. And I asked people.
No, he's not going to preach to me.
Right.
Oh,
and
my
I'd ask
God.
people to look at the parable and tell me what they think it means. And I talked to 15 people, and I got 15 different answers, which I couldn't believe, because to me it's like, it's so obvious what it means,
It's crystal clear.
And I probably had different ideas what it meant when I was younger, and would have had different answers for a question like that. And so the Bible is meant to be returned to and digested and talked about, read in community, read in solitude,
Or read in church, like you said, read in
I
study
recently,
groups outside of church.
I
Absolutely.
recently heard someone say it's not the Bible doesn't give us a portrait of God, it gives us a window, which is more like God is alive and through the Bible I'm looking at God. And then at the same time, that window has a reflection because we're also seeing ourselves.
Right.
It's like a mirror, And even like the law of God, it's like, if I want to say I'm a really good person, it's like, okay, how do I do compared to the 10 Commandments,
Exactly.
Broken every one of them in some form or another,
And probably some other stuff too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, oh yeah, a lot. The things I've failed to do and the things I've done,
Correct.
So the Bible is that mirror for us also. So I just want to encourage you, brother, to get back to the Bible,
I think I'm going to have to. I'm going to go pick up my sword tonight, probably. Yeah, my brother, before he passed on, left his sword with somebody else, and they gave it to me because they knew that he was my brother. So I'm going to have to. And he signed it, highlighted passages in it. So I'm going to pick up my brother's Bible and just look through it and the passages that he highlighted.
Yeah.
And why were they important? And hopefully he left some little notes as to why he highlighted those passages in the Bible and what they meant to him. Because that's really what it is. The Bible is a basic instruction before leaving Earth, how to live a better life and how to deal with things. Like I said, it still translates to today, even though it was written years before we were ever thought of. Even our parents, great-grandparents, it still is just a book to give you basic instruction through parables to live a better life, because God in His infinite wisdom knew that 2018 is coming and we're dealing with the likes of Trump and the likes of social media and the likes of racism and all those things. And He gives us instruction on how to deal with these things, how to deal with a Trump, how to deal with racism, how to deal with your fellow man, how to deal with a grievous boss. And that tells you and parables in the Bible how a character in the Bible dealt with a very bad boss that got on him and was always on him, and how to deal with that. And this is written years before you even came in contact with a boss, even know how to spell boss, to know, how do I deal with, this man or woman who's always giving me trouble? Answers in the Bible.
And one thing to think about, I'll leave you with this. You're familiar with this verse in Hebrews. It's appointed for man to die once, and after that comes judgment. Pretty much rules out reincarnation. See what I'm saying?
Got it. Oh my God, you're so right. Yes.
I want to remind you of that. I'm sure you've heard it.
Yes, I have. Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Hey, can I pray for you?
What to say, Lord? It's you that gave me life, and can't explain just how much you mean to me now that you have saved